Okay, so a few points I have to make before I make this episode, and it's huge. Cat Burns to me is a person that makes music solely for a person dealing with situations, but makes real and genuine music truly about the soul. So, with that being said, we're gonna talk about Cat Burns, a UK artist, a United Kingdom artist that to me which to me gives personifying emotions about anxiety, and the song is called Anxiety that we're going to be talking about. But this is a huge disclaimer solely because I know anxiety is a talking point for a lot of people. It's a there's a line between anxiety if it's real and not. And so with that being said, there are a few things we're going to talk about before we get into this. And the first thing we're going to talk about is this. If you are a person that doesn't believe anxiety is real, that's cool. I wouldn't recommend you listening to this song if you feel that way. If you are a person that says anxiety is real and it's something that needs help, I would recommend you listening to this song. And if you are a person that suffers with anxiety, I would say this song gives you're seen. You are seen, you are noticed. This song in itself does give, for the most part, people with anxiety a voice to listen to, a voice to be heard. It does personify your emotions, and this is the closest that people that don't believe anxiety is real, or people that don't experience anxiety themselves, will ever get as close to you and understanding your feelings and your emotions. So with that being said, with that long-winded introduction, let's read from the sponsors. But this is a serious conversation. So I don't want people to go, hey, well, anxiety isn't real, so this song makes no sense. This is something I really do want to hammer home, because it's something a lot of people deal with, and a lot of people can't explain what they're feeling. So by this episode, I am taking a more serious tone with this, only because I know people that deal with this personally that didn't feel safe in personal spaces. I've seen this physically, where a person just was rubbing themselves, scratching themselves because they were nervous to talk to people. So yeah, for the people that say that this isn't real, this isn't to spark a debate, this isn't for public, this isn't to be used for public debate, this isn't empirical evidence that it is real, this is empirical evidence that it isn't. So with that being said, before we get into the song, like I said, we're going to see if we have any sponsors on. We'll get right into it. So she starts it off with a very good chorus, if you ask me, because the very first word is, I think we need to talk, and that's something a lot of people with anxiety don't feel like they're heard in. They don't feel like they're able to talk with themselves or talk with anxiety. So they give anxiety this personified feel to it, which I'm happy she did, because it brings up a very good topic. There's some things I have to get off my chest, she said, and that's what she said. She said there's some few things I have to get off my chest, which the people I've experienced. So this is going to be an I statement, and an I statement is something that I've seen or experienced somebody that had to deal with anxiety deal with, and this is why I want people to know that have anxiety that you're heard. Because in the song that she goes, yeah, there's something I want to get off my chest. You've always been in control. You claim you know what's best for me. There are a lot of people with anxiety that, and this as I said, this is an I statement, because I've seen people and I've talked to people with anxiety, and the question I get, and the question I always ask is, how do you feel about the room that you're in? And the answer I normally get back is, I'm nervous solely because I'm not good with social environments. I'm not good at selling myself. I don't have enough faith in myself, which we could all argue with self-esteem, and I'm not here to argue self-esteem versus anxiety. I don't, roughly for this situation, have enough time to argue about it, but it's just not a situation I'm willing to argue on, because there are people that have anxiety, so we're not here to argue that. You've always been in control, almost as people, and there are some people I know that feel that anxiety runs their life. Like, there are certain situations they won't ever get involved in because they're scared of it, or they'll have a fight or flight reaction just solely because of the room that they're put into, or they have like a nervous itch or scratch that they do, because they feel like anxiety rules their life, so they won't do anything that makes them anxious or have anxiety. Which, let me tell you, antidepressants. We can get here in antidepressants, because I know some people that had anxiety and then people said, no, you're just depressed. No. And they got antidepressant medicines and they were worse. But as I said, this isn't me giving legal or medical advice. It's not. I've just seen it happen. She says there's some few things I have to get off my chest. But since I've gotten older, I kind of want to know myself. I want to know what life is minus you. So when I get past you, let's say I do, but there's some occasions that I want to do, and I want to be able to live my, know what life is without and being in constant fear. That's why if you know someone with anxiety, they'll always go, I wonder how a person with no anxiety lives their life. Because there are a lot of people that go through anxiety, but it's not labeled anxiety because it's not a medical way to treat it. Or, there just isn't a way to treat anxiety, And some people truly believe that. I, for example, was watching a documentary and the juvenile said, the youth juvenile said, she said that she just being in school made her anxious, right? But we have laws that make children go to school, but it does make you wonder though, what. Like, my whole thing is, if you want to plan something and fix something, we gotta understand how other people deal with anxiety. But it is something, they just said they want to get to know themselves as they get older. They want to know what life without anxiety feels. What necessarily will say comfort, an environment that they're always comfortable in feels like, compared to not to having anxiety. And he says, I want to know what life is minus you, just, hey, without anxiety, how is life? How am I doing in life? How am I seen in life? And the course says, I got invited to a party. It's next week. They asked me if I want to come along. And I always wondered, what is like when it's just me? I just want to know what a party is like without me having anxiety, me being scared, me having fear, or me just being overly nervous going to a party. She says, I always wondered what it's like when it's just me. And she says, what if I let them see me in a beanie, white tee, or an oversized jeans? Which somebody could argue that is the stigma put on women by cruel beauty standards, is that they have to look a certain way, which we could argue that too. And that'd be another, like, a 30-minute episode in itself to argue beauty standards, which we truly could argue. But it is something to me when I read this, and I am aware it's coming from a woman's point of view. And before you say a woman's point of view is invalid, that's not true. I think a woman's point of view should be as valid as a man's point of view. So before we get that out the way, but it is this idea of people being themselves, almost like they don't have to dress a certain way to fit into a crowd and be themselves, so they can dress the way they want to, just be comfortable in the way they want to. But she says, would they recognize me? Would they recognize me without my anxiety? So am I a totally different person without anxiety? Am I a happier person without anxiety? Would people realize me if I'm happier without it? Which is kind of that thing of, hey, can I push anxiety out of my body and without, can I push my anxiety without it? Can I live life without anxiety, or can I push myself? Am I a more comfortable person without anxiety? Which we could argue, because in our next verse she goes, hear me out. Don't think I'm not scared of this. I am scared of jumping out of my own comfort zone, which is what we're going to call it, the comfort zone. She's scared of jumping out of her own comfort zone to try new things. But at the same time, I know it's always been you and me. It's always been me in some form of anxiety with crowds, with people, with social interactions, with activities. So I'm not trying to kick you out, which she says. I know it's always been me, but I'm not kicking you out. I'm not kicking you out. I think it's fine that you give me some anxiety or me some awareness or me some kind of emotion. I'm not kicking you out. But since I've gotten older, I just want to know what it is, what life is that makes me happy and that's around me without feeling anxious. And the chorus is crazy, and this chorus is sweet. It says, I just got invited to, and she just talks about it. Would they recognize me without my anxiety? But then this last thing is, I can't wait to be without my anxiety. I can't wait to be without, and it's a sad thing, because a lot of people with anxiety face this issue, and there isn't ways to fix it. And we could argue that in the American justice system, completely, rehabilitation isn't something that's focused on, or mental health for that matter isn't something that's focused on. We could argue that for days. We could also argue that, with health insurance the way it is, not a lot of people can afford to get mental health to help them with anxiety or find ways to fix them with the anxiety, right? And we could argue, they're just gonna put me in a rabbit hole, but we could argue a lot of things. I think truly we could. We could argue for days about anxiety or the root of anxiety, and does it relate to trauma? We could argue that is anxiety real or not, and that could lead to another debate. But overall, like, this message is something that we have to look at anxiety in this. We have to look at anxiety, especially in the United States, but worldwide. We have to look at anxiety as something that we want to help. Now, we might not find a treatment for anxiety. That might not be fine. That's, we brought ourselves up to find a cure for it, but it is something that, we should take more serious. I think that's something we have to take into account. There's just a certain way in life that people should be able to live and enjoy their lives the way they are. But the thing is, on a lot of insurances, mental health isn't covered, solely because they don't think, and we could argue this is a political point of view or a person's perspective of, mental health isn't real, but it's weird though. It's definitely weird to look at statistics. It's weird to know that somebody has a problem with anxiety, but we don't want to fix it. Like, granted, there won't be a cure. There won't be a cure. Like, there's no cure to cancer, but it makes me wonder, and I've had this conversation. I'm a very shy person, so I get it, but it does worry me that, there are people that are very anxious and they don't know how to handle it because they don't feel like they're seen. So this is my way of saying, hey, you're seen. That's just point blank period. You're seen. Anxiety by Cat Burns is a song you should definitely listen to. Hey, if you download it and want to listen to it and sing it or whatever, you should. I don't say you shouldn't, but it is a question of how do we help you. Like, if you know a way that would help you, hey, let me know. For examples, this song, if you ask me, is a solid 8 out of 10. It's rightfully perfect. It starts a conversation. It starts a conversation that needs to be had about how the world sees anxiety and how can we help people with anxiety feel less anxiety. But I do wonder, where do you stand on this situation? But also, what do you think about the song by Cat Burns, Anxiety? I think this is a interesting conversation starter. But I would love to know where you stand. I hope you enjoyed this episode.